So, all right, I guess we're gonna get started. So, I want to thank everybody who is attending live and anybody who is catching this afterwards on YouTube or other platforms. This is our second in our series on business connections, where we're going to be interviewing different business leaders from the Long Island, New York area to start, and we'll expand going forward, as we expand on this. So thank you everybody for coming. Our next one is scheduled, I believe, for March 2021. Will be held by Kim Rafi, a partner at our firm. She'll be interviewing someone, so be on the lookout for that. Our guest today is Mark Gajowski. Mark is the president of the Magii group of companies, been a longtime client of Cerini and Associates, as you kind of just heard us rambling about if you were on already. So Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Why don't you first give us a little bit of background on yourself and the company just to kind of get us going?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I think it's always great to connect with a good partner and friend. Cerini's been fantastic to work with, and so I recommended you so highly to others. But as you'd asked, for those watching, I started in this industry when I was a junior in high school. I was good at computers, so I was working at that time for E.F. Hutton, programming a contact management system for their then branch manager. So I was a junior in high school and kind of stuck with him throughout a couple of moves between a couple of more notable broker dealers. So I think he went from E.F. Hutton to Smith Barney, Shearson Lehman, Smith Barney Shearson, Dean Witter. I wasn't licensed yet at that time because I was just still in college. Got licensed and went into business for myself under my own banner in July of 1999. So this is our 22nd year with my own banner hanging outside.
So it's old enough to drink now. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for noticing. Yeah, so when people talk to me like, wow, you're still pretty young to be in business, I'm like, wow, because I feel like, if I was in some of these public service jobs, I'd be, 3 years away from potentially, collecting a pension and walking away. But I'm still having a lot of fun. I still have a lot of energy for it. So still in practice. So at some point in time, as they say, you practice often enough, then you'll get good at it. So, we like to think that what we do here matters and that we have a calling to try to help as many clients, plan and navigate their retirement and their personal financial lives as possible. And the business kind of exists really on two folds. So the Magii group of companies, as we call it, and Magii is just my initials. Mark Allen Gajowski II. So one of my college buddies.
I think it's a brilliant name because it also means king in Latin.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, nice.
Or wise man. I'm sorry, wise man. I believe is what
I'll take wise man. King sounds a little autocratic, but yeah, we'll do that. So it works. So we have two businesses that we do. Oh yeah, two businesses. So we do individual wealth management and retirement for near retirees, people close to retirement, and people that are business owners, right? Successful folks that have accumulated some net worth, and help them navigate, getting up to and through and during retirements. That's the vast majority of our individual practice, where we do one-on-one work as CFPs. And the other side that I own is a separately controlled entity, third-party administration firm. So we would say we're your local third-party retirement experts. So we work on retirement plans for organizations of all sizes, so public and for-profit. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's great. I've definitely recommended you, to a lot of different clients for your services on both sides of that. I think you do great work with all of them. So I know one that we talk about a lot is this retirement industry, and you've been a leader in kind of implementing some newer services and or being on the forefront of really what's going on with that. You've had different initiatives throughout kind of the years we've worked together, but you're always kind of keeping your eye on the prize of trying to help businesses with their retirement plans, both from a compliance perspective, from a plan design perspective, and from helping them just globally. So kind of what are you seeing? You think the future of those are going to look like, and why would Magii be a great fit for a lot of people who may be listening?
Oh, great question. So I like you to keep that one up. It's a nice little soft. I know you said you're going to hit me all the hard questions, but that was a good one. So thanks.
I got them right here. Don't worry. The hard ones.
Oh, the hard ones are there. Oh God, man, I have to call in the team with all the brain power. So I think where you kind of started with this is like, what have we done? Well, I try to live my life with a theory of, and I just sent this out to clients actually as a New Year kind of message. Tony Robbins a couple of years ago had said that he does something called CANI, CANEI, constant and never-ending improvement. which to me denotes that we should never be satisfied with where we are, right? So I'm never satisfied with where I am personally or professionally. I'm always trying to motivate our kids to do different things. I try to motivate my friends and family to do good stuff, give back in the community as I and my family have for years. Ed, you know, I'm a volunteer fireman, and I'm proud to follow in my father and my father's footsteps for that. So I mean, I think collectively, our family and the Riverhead Volunteer Fire Department has donated over 50 years of service, throughout, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, it's fun. It's a great group of guys and gals, and it's for a good cause. But this constant never-ending improvement is how we try to bring the theory here to Magii. So 3 or 4 years ago, we cut all of our technology systems over to the cloud, not because I had foresight, by the way, that COVID was coming and all the shutdown stuff that we all had to learn to deal with was on the forefront, but more because we needed to continually improve, and our systems just weren't keeping up with the demand of business that was coming in, or what the service was that we wanted to give our clients in terms of online access or security or other things. So we cut over and made a big investment in that. And it's kind of interesting, and it's really helped us out because it's put us in the forefront. And I didn't realize that again at the time. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Like, right, I want to run my business, not like an individual practice, but I wanted to run it like a business, right? It's got to be a growing entity, much larger than me and my handful of great dedicated staff outside. So we've done that and continue to do that to try to improve things. And why maybe we're a good fit for some people in that local tri-state area is because we're local. So not only am I someone with a great team who's got advanced degrees and credentials, and we're insured and bonded and all that stuff you would expect, but we eat our own cooking. So it's not like I'm a restaurateur and a chef behind the scenes who chooses to go across the street and eat at somebody else's restaurant. I feel like I'm like, we built and designed our own plan. We use the same vendors we use for you. My family and friends and clients are all in the same stuff in terms of how we invest and how we help people plan and manage for their money. And I think that matters because we're a good fit for someone who wants a local connection like you've been to me, Ed. I pick up the phone or I send you a text, or around the holidays, we get together for a celebratory, libation, and we enjoy each other's company because I respect you, respect me, and we have a good working rapport. And we want that with the clients who want to have something that you don't get in the quote unquote, the big box stores, right? So you're not gonna get that same thing.
Okay, yeah, I've seen you firsthand in action, and every time we get together and meet, you're always describing your new services and how you're trying to help the fiduciary responsibilities and these plan designs, and I'd say about every 2 to 3 years, like the new plan design comes up, right? When I first got to Cerini, the new hot thing, quote unquote, was new comparability plans, right? And everybody should be in a new comparability plan, and then all of a sudden the defined benefit plans made a comeback for maybe some of the closer controlled businesses of saying, all right, if I have good demographics and this, maybe an old school defined benefit plan can make a lot of sense. And now you're starting to hear about the pooled employer plans that are starting to come around. You have the Secure Act changes, and you have been a great resource just to help me expand my knowledge of all of these things, and you've helped implement some of these different ones and help some of our clients generate millions in tax savings long term. So there's a lot of great stuff out there, and that's what makes you great on that side of it. And then the other side, I've seen you in action as a financial advisor. You do the advisory pieces you had mentioned too. Right now the market's it's weird, I think, for a lot of people. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. There's some concerns about a lot of industries here and there, but basically since March, it's just been going up and up and up and up. And I kind of want to get a sense of, where are you thinking 2021 is going to look when you're working with your clients in terms of their strategies? Or, are you concerned about a post-inauguration pullback? Are you concerned about long-term impacts of COVID? What's kind of the, without giving away the milk for free, so to speak, and putting yourself in some legal jeopardy, kind of just where you think things are kind of looking in the next 8 to 12 months, so to speak.
So the crystal ball question, huh?
The crystal ball, yes, the crystal ball question.
Tough questions. I see it. So good question, good line of questions. So one, every client is going to be different, right? So just like when you're working with your individual tax clients, every client's got a different set of what I would call risk tolerances, which is how comfortable are they investing in the markets, whatever the markets are to them. What kind of income stream do they have? What kind of income stream do they need? How close are they to their retirement? What kind of benefits do they have? Are they inheriting money? Are their insurances properly structured? Do they own the right way? Is there estate planning stuff done? And you and I could spin off in a bunch of different directions on each of those pieces, which, by the way, I think has really come much more so to the forefront, especially in the last 12 months, because I think a lot of people have been kind of COVID closed, right? So they've been shut down. They've been looking at stuff that maybe they never looked at before, or at least started to think about things in a different way. Maybe that means looking at their portfolios or evaluating their different advisors and going, you know what? I really don't have a relationship with an advisor. I should really have someone look at this because I got stuff all over the place. We sat with a client yesterday, great woman. She's got 32 accounts. She's one lady, 32 accounts. And I'm thinking this is great that she's got all these different accounts all over the place, and kudos to you. But when I asked her, I said, why do you have all this money all over the place? And she said, well, this is how I'm lessening my risk. I'm going to put some money over here and there and everywhere else. And I said, right, but now all the risk comes on you. Are you equipped to handle this? And, a lot of these accounts have, minimums. So you're not getting institutional pricing when you start breaking up accounts all over, right? There's an efficiency of scale. So even in a basic level conversation like that, there's always, in the industry, we call it alpha, right? There's always some benefit you can get by having an intelligent conversation or line of questions with someone who understands how to do questions. And I'm going to share something cute with you. So I have a Tickle Me Elmo on my desk. I think you know this.
Everybody loves Elmo.
Probably know where we're going. But Elmo, and I'm not going to do my Elmo voice. Elmo is famous for, I've got 3 kids, right? So I remember when the kids were growing up watching. But the Elmo thing was, Elmo finds out answers because Elmo asks lots of questions. And that's what always reminded me of that is that, you want to find out answers, you have to ask questions, intelligent questions, not just generic questions. So I think as we were talking about earlier before the session started, or maybe just as Chris had hit record, you need to be empathetic. You need to be able to get to the bottom line, because ultimately I don't think that I'd ever want to deal with someone that wanted to just impress upon me how much they know. I want to deal with someone that wants to ask me questions. We ended up, my wife and I, we do in our kitchen a couple of years ago, and we interviewed 4 different contractors. The one we ended up going with was the person that walked in. And by the way, I think their end design was all about the same, if I recall from looking at it. But the person my wife and I really connected to most was the person that walked in and started asking us questions. Hey, do you entertain a lot? Do you drink wine? Are you right-handed or left-handed? Do you have anyone that's handicapped in your family? Do you have kids? I see you have pictures all around the kids. Do your kids get involved in doing stuff? And it doesn't make sense until you start thinking about that process. Why would that matter in a kitchen? Because the kitchen's the heart of the home, right? You need to have function.
Of the house.
Yeah, if you're a cook or if you drink wine, well, then maybe you need to have I think they call it a wine caddy or a little wine fridge, right? Or a little area off. Or if you're prepping and you have big meals, well, maybe you need to design the flow of this kitchen differently. If you've got someone obviously that has special needs in your home, maybe you need to have handicapped accessible microwaves or something else, right? So I thought that the line of questioning was really important to me, at least in that regard, and my wife as well. And that's why we engaged with the company we used, and we were very happy with the product. And we try to take that same way here at Magii. I want to ask questions. I want to know who you are. Because ultimately, we've got to have a personal relationship because it's your money. And for most people, nothing's more personal than their money. Just ask them. They'll tell you about their conquests, and everybody always tells you about their wins. Very few people have
Never talk about their losses,
they're not comfortable with that. Somebody's got to know your skeletons, right? So whether that's Ed McWilliams at Cerini, who's a great guy to work with, by the way, or whoever your confidant is, or Mark at Magii, someone needs to know the things that you're afraid of, that you're concerned about.
Yeah,
that's a very long way around me not answering the question of where the market.
I guess one question I personally have, I'll kind of just your feeling on this, right? I personally, have friends who have not invested much prior, that in the past 3 to 6 months started asking me questions because, as an accountant, people think I do what you do. It's I'm not a financial advisor.
Money's money. Oh, you had
right. Money's I'm a money guy, so therefore I must know how the stock market works and this and that. And I pick up some tidbits here and there from working with you, and I openly tell them I'm not an advisor, but there's smaller retail level investors that I think are getting more and more involved in the marketplace. And do you see that becoming a risk broadly in the market? And and or for them personally, like, how do you feel about that as a, more professional oriented advisor, those, individual small retail people who are getting in for the first time?
Sure. So, I mean, I think industry-wide that's a concern for many
Hmm.
for established advisors, right? And what most people don't know is that most advisors are willing to work with just about anybody. They may have restrictions depending on the broker-dealer relationship that they are affiliated with, right? So I'm affiliated with American Portfolios, who actually was incorporated on 9/11 of '01. Yep, 9/11 was when our
Wow.
broker-dealer was started. I affiliated with them a couple of years after. But if you can go with a firm like that, who's obviously geared for independence, and they'll allow folks like me to work and service clients of all shapes and sizes. We may have a better skill set for people that have a little bit more advanced things because there's just more there.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we won't charge clients for, college planning or 529 savings. Just personally, we don't need to make money in college savings.
Hmm.
So we'll give them that advice for free. But for people who want to get involved, and P.S. I'm a huge fan of capitalism, so I think capitalism works. I am.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
case in point, I'm a business owner. We work with business owners all the time. I love working with people that like to think outside the box because that's who I am, right? So hopefully some of that energy is coming across in our discussion today, as it's come across when we've met with clients and prospects together. I want to work with people who want to be helped. I want to work with people who don't want the same old. And whether they're young clients starting out for the first time in a profession that they'll grow into, or they're established folks that had built a business and had a family, and now they're on the other side of that precipice, looking over a bridge to say your retirement's on the other side. I'm a little hesitant about that. My wife and I have a lot of concerns.
Yeah.
What can you do? And I can tell them very candidly, listen, I've helped 100 people go back and forth. I've walked them across and realized it's okay on the other side. I can help you too. And that comes across very genuine because it is.
Yeah.
It's not a lie. It's the truth.
Well, I think that genuine human touch, and this kind of leads, I think, into a similar question I was thinking about here, right? You and I both work in the services industry in the end, right? We're service providers. And if you read about trend reports, right, they say, what are two of the more likely jobs to be automated in the next 20 to 25 years?
Mhm.
Well, I believe the percentage on accounting is like 99.999%, and the percentage on financial advisor is about 99.998%, according to different items here. And, obviously that automation risk exists for both you and I equally, but I think, one of the things I think we try to differentiate ourselves on is that service factor, right? That yes, are there going to be certain people that are going to be better served maybe in an automated environment? Perhaps, smaller retail investors who don't need to have the advisory fees or that personal touch, if they can have a button that automates a diversified portfolio for them based on a couple items, that's been in place in target funds for a long time now. Now we're just kind of taking the next technology step on that. Or, a lot of individual tax clients whom, their returns are maybe a W-2 and some bank interest that can just be auto-populated and move along, right? That's not where our bread and butters are in terms of client service. What else do you think we can do, to kind of help prevent this quote unquote risk of automation and, improve our services? What do you think those real key differentiators are for someone, like yourself or us moving forward?
Yeah, no, good question. So all the bigger shops, right? So whether it's a Schwab or Merrill Lynch or even Goldman Sachs, I heard now is doing this on our side of the fence, the financial planning and advice side. They call it robo-advice. A series of very intelligent questions, whether that's Betterment or some of these other ones. And again, I'm not advocating or recommending any of them, but they're out there. It's probably just a simple Google search to direct you to a bunch of these things that you or millennials maybe who are more akin to dealing in a digital world and less of the personal touch, or maybe they don't need it because they're new and they're growing and they just build a portfolio to get something. And then as their life continues to evolve and they get equity and ownership in a business or a home or a second home or what have you, then they need to have a discussion that's a little bit more broad and encompassing and artificial intelligence algorithm can answer for them. So I'm a huge fan of anyone getting involved in the market, right? So ultimately, whether you're coming to a guy like us or our competitors, or even for someone if someone's just looking for a generic tax return in and they're just a W-2 employee, the reality is I'm sure you could bring some great advice to them because I know who you are, right? You can cover a bunch of other things, but the simple fact is those aren't really the ideal clients for you or I.
Correct.
And you'd probably say, because I know you've said this in the past, you probably say, for those people who don't need it or don't think they want it, well, then fine, go in that direction. You can always go back and ask somebody, hey, should I have done something different? And almost always when you ask the question, the answer is yes. So we're of the mindset that, and I have it posted on our wall in the office here with a bunch of motivational phrases that keep our I call my team, by the way, the promise keepers. I say, because I go out and I make promises to the clients, and the team obviously keeps the promises, right? So ultimately they're the ones that do all the great work. I'm just the face and not necessarily a good looking one at that. So I'm the face of the company. I do the face-to-face meetings. They do all the real work, right? So they're the real heroes. Price is always the issue in the absence of value, right? So these automation systems typically are giving you a very base level answer at a very nominal cost. So you get what you pay for, right? And I'll regale you with a story. One time I'm putting gas in my wife's car, and I'm sitting at a gas station. I don't remember where it was, but a couple of years ago, and I'm pumping it. They had the little screen there at the gas pump, and it was a Vanguard commercial. And it said, would you be putting gas in your car right now if gas was, I'll make up a number because I don't remember what it was, $15.67 a gallon. I'm thinking in my mind, nope, probably not. I'm probably telling us we just got to travel less because, God, that seems so expensive. And then it flips, right? Because it's only a 30 cents.
Yeah, that's right. Those. And brilliant in advertising, captive audience.
It says, then why would you be paying 3 times the national average for your investment advice? I'm going, see, somebody gets it. They're selling on price, right? The catch on that is, when all you have to sell on is price, well, then you live and die by that, right? If all you have to sell on is performance of an investment, then you live and die on performance. I'd like to think, and I believe, and I know that folks like you and I are always going to have a place in this world, because good advice and good, consulting is hard to find, if not, ever. And it's something that is got an insurmountable value in terms of that. So, like you said, you and I have helped save clients literally millions of real tax dollars that they didn't pay to the government. They were able to legally shelter them and design things in a more favorable way. The money you save for working with your clients in terms of tax advice and planning is real dollars. That's real money. That's not fictitious money. So that is always going to be something that I think
it's the relationship game, right? And that's where I think is going to be, where really the value proposition is. And when I mentor the staff here, I always try to push them towards, hey, we're not just putting numbers in the tax software, this and that, but we're building relationships to be. And I hate this term because it's the popular accounting term du jour. Well, it's been about 15 years now. The trusted business advisor. Right, that was the big term that people came up with for accountants for a while, and it was kind of just all right, I get it, but kind of lame.
And really, you guys are the trusted advisor. From everything I've seen on the financial side of the world, most people who again are working with CPA firms like yours, consulting firms, not just all CPA firms are equal, right? But real consulting firms, business consulting firms, right? Successional planning consulting firms like Cerini, those people have a specific need. So you're filling a specific need with a certain set of skills, right? A unique set of skills to quote a
right. Yeah, so there'd be trouble for people like you.
Yeah. We've got a certain set of skills, right? We won't always share what those skills are, but those skills are valuable. And ultimately, people who don't know what they want can't be held liable for the decisions they don't need to make. Again, my wife's a teacher. We work with a lot of charter schools, a lot of nonprofits. I have the utmost respect for anyone in the education field, especially with everything they've gone through, and first responders, of course, across the board. But ultimately, when you go to education, I'm of a mindset that talking about finance, not just accounting or tax or whatever, that should be a required course coming out of high school.
Absolutely.
You should at least know, what debt is. You should know. I mean, in the old days, we used to have to write checks. Ed, remember,
we had to teach. I never forget having to teach a daughter of a wealthy client of mine how to write a check. She literally came into our office. This is back at a different firm. Walked in the door and said, "I got to write a check to pay my property taxes." We're like, "Okay, well, just because it says taxes doesn't mean we work on it." She goes, "Oh, I understand. I don't know how to write a check." And we had to kind of explain that. But I agree with you 100% when it comes to that. I myself I had an interest in business in high school. I came from a high school that had a tremendous business program in it. A lot of different courses, and I think it really helped shape me. I was doing accounting when I was a sophomore in high school, so I think it really helped shape me to kind of where I am today. And great lessons and gave me a head up in college and in life as a whole. And I've tried to give back to them a whole bunch of times, and I still do. But one thing I always try to harp on is, hey, we really need to, be teaching students more and more about financial planning and, financial life itself.
As it relates to things. I mean, how many times you get successful doctors or attorneys or even accountants, right? Who went to school for a certain advanced program and have been in school for years and years and years, right? Take on large amounts of debt, right? Make a great living by all bearings and peer groups, but then come out and they don't know anything about how to run a business or evaluate vendors or even ask the right questions. And that's not it's not a fault, because if we're not suggesting that they do that, or it's not a required course like that empathy client sociology course that I told you I got involved in for the CFP board and Wharton recently, which I thought was fantastic, because that's that bedside manner stuff that some people, it's just missing. It's not their fault, they just don't know. So ultimately, I think that's just wild.
Yeah. So, I guess I want to segue into a couple of other quick topics. So, again, you're right in Hauppauge. I'm right in Bohemia. Our offices are about 8 to 10 minutes apart. Why Long Island for you? Maybe you grew up here, but that's a choice to stay here after you kind of graduate and all that. What about Long Island is attracted to you, and why do you like staying here?
Yeah, good question. So I grew up on the island. So my family, my father's family grew up out east. They were gentlemen farmers. His mother was one of 13 Polish immigrants that came across the boat through Ellis Island. So they grew up with hard work. We would always we'd talk around the dinner table when my brother and I were young, and my dad would give us the stories when he was in transition of career. He started his own business. So we watched to see what that grew and became, and then he ended up selling it before retiring. And so we were always surrounded with the idea that in America, especially New York or Long Island, being very specific and very regional, you have opportunities because not only are there a lot of folks around that need a certain amount of services, but there's a certain energy, right? So even though I haven't been in the city in over a year since everything's happened, there's a certain tempo that is just impossible to replicate when you go outside of New York. And nothing to knock any of our friends from the north or the south or the west, but there's still a reason, in my opinion, that the East Coast, and more specifically the New York metro area, is got
you can make it here. You can make it anywhere.
There's a palpable energy, right? So if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, as you just said. And I know that that's true. So I enjoy working with people in this area. We love where we live. I think New York and Long Island's got a great amount of things and availability for kids and families and whatnot. It's expensive to live here, but again, that I think makes me a useful consultant for clients, because again, I'm not just someone who's got a unique set of skills that you can apply to the business, but I am also a business owner. I have payroll. I have staff. I have a retirement plan. I live and commute in the same way that you do. So I think that's real, because for a lot of the people that other people are dealing with, they don't. I didn't go to a private school. We didn't grow up rich. I didn't, I don't have that availability that many people had the benefit of growing up in this area. And it's not a knock to anyone that had that. I just didn't.
Yeah.
So it was bootstraps. So I had to, live and die by my life lessons. And I try to use that for every client that we go forward with. I'm a real person. We do real things, and we do a great service, I think. So.
Yeah, no, I listen, that's, I think, you and I have very similar background. My mother's family is, Polish with the hard work. I like to think it's where that comes from. So
dollar all the way, Ed.
Yeah, but she worked her ass off, raising me, working for New York State, because it's that same background where I think that's why we get along so well. And, why I think Long Island is great is we have a lot of that background in us. And I think that helps us overall. I'm a big proponent of Long Island. I moved back here after college. I have no real plans of leaving. And, I provide what people consider now to be a luxury in that it's a mobile service. I could move to Miami tomorrow And in the new normal, wouldn't really make much of a difference other than I wouldn't get to, see you in person as much, right? But, we've all transitioned to that. I have a relatively mobile work skill. You have a relatively mobile work skill, but my roots are Long Island, and I like providing services to this area and, dealing with the unique challenges that this comes up, and helping owners in Long Island and the New York market. I always tell people New York isn't my favorite city in the world, but I still think it's the greatest city in the world, right? And we sometimes get spoiled thinking about it being a 40, 50-minute train ride away. Like, who would come here on vacation? And you realize there's tons of people that it's a vacation destination, and
it's a bucket list item for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we sometimes lose sight of that. You were hitting on, again, you are a business owner and so on and so forth. You are the CEO. What do you do to stay connected to your staff, to motivate your staff? Why, as you said, they are the promise keepers, so to speak. What do you value about your staff when it comes to that?
Again, I think I couldn't have built a business of any form or factor if it was limited to the amount of time that you have, right? So, ultimately, when I wake up, we talked about this constant never-ending improvement. I wake up, I feel like every morning with a clock in my head, and it motivates my action. I get excited to get up, but I'm also mindful that you only have so much time in the day, like anyone, right? So what do I do with the time? So how do I leverage that time? You leverage the time in any business with having great staff that can leverage your time. You leverage it with staff. I leverage it with technology we talked about before. We do have a mobile ability. Mm-hmm. How do I stay connected with the staff? Well, again, the staff is not so large where I'm a closed door. Literally, my door is open. They come in and out like I know they do at Cerini. We do total comp statements, which I recommend to all of our employee benefits clients constantly, which is, really tell your staff what it really costs so that they really have an understanding of what it's like to be you. Have to judge varying concerns around taxes and liabilities, obligations, pension funding, retirement planning funding, the medical costs, right? The increases that they're expecting, all the varying rules and regulations. And again, for many of us that are in New York, we know that New York's got its own moving target of rules and regulations that changes on an ongoing basis. Right?
Last night there was a proposal of Cuomo trying to bump the rate a little bit. We'll see what happens with that.
Wouldn't be surprised, right? But ultimately, that it's a needs to an end. We stay in touch, or I stay in touch with the team because I want to make sure that they understand how valuable I know they are to me and to the firm and to the clients that we serve, and that they are more than just a number on a piece of paper. But the reality is, I'm thinking as a business owner, right? So a business owner, like I said, I don't work for a paycheck. I mean, I do, but I know what my paycheck is, and it's mostly tax. So it's just the nature of the beast, right?
You're my conversation we have every year. Can I lower my taxes a little bit? No, you erase it. Oh man, come on.
That's great. Thanks, Ed. Great advice. So, but the simple reality is, I don't work for a paycheck, but my staff does. So I know that we have to provide a great service. I have to give them great benefits so I can keep them employed, that we can continue to grow, continue to service more folks. I think that's really important because ultimately, if we can't keep your great staff and they get pulled away from somebody else, right? Because ultimately, nobody ever hires anybody who just happens to be on the street, right? Everybody's pulling somebody that's gainfully employed, right? It's this kind of ongoing joke of, there's so many people unemployed. Unfortunately, many of the people that are unemployed aren't employed because they don't have transferable skills. They don't have skills that are in demand now. My staff has skills that are in demand. Other people's staff has skills that are in demand. But when I've hired staff here, I've pulled them away from someplace else with maybe a better culture, a better experience, maybe better benefits. My staff has great health insurance, and we pay. They have a retirement plan. We have a pension. They have long-term, short-term, life, right? So they've got dental. We've got a lot of things that I think, as a total package, plus the fact that we built I think a really nice corporate culture, and we work with clients who are generally appreciative. It makes it easier. If you worked in a job, you had all those benefits, but you hated your job because you went there every day, and you're like, God, I'm gonna have to get these unhappy people on the phone all day long. That's miserable, and nobody wants to come there. I want my staff to come in and their smiles, right? And it's not because we're spiking their coffee. It's because they're genuinely happy to be here. So,
you have a great staff. I've worked with many different members of your team throughout the years. Both to service you as a client and for, clients that we mutually serve together, and, consummate professionals that, I know they work hard. I know they're passionate. I know they care. And, I think you and I have a very similar philosophy when it comes to this. Let me find people who care, and I can teach them
Okay.
everything else they need to learn. Caring is that, caring and really just, that sense of responsibility is that one skill that you just cannot teach, I think, for anybody. You have to, either you have it or you don't.
Have it or you don't. And I couldn't have said it better. And I think it collectively, if anybody could get anything out of our little, vignettes today, is that, if you're going to put an ad out there, you'd think that that's the one thing that would catch the best perspective, employees is you've got to be able to get people who can be attentive. It drives me crazy, right? I'm essentially a sales guy, just like you're, right? We're selling our services, we're selling ourselves, we're selling our firms. Ultimately, regardless of our skill set, what we call ourselves with designations and degrees, ultimately we're in sales, financial sales, retirement sales, or accounting sales, consultation sales. Ultimately, you're selling yourself all the time. But where I was getting at with the staff is that, you've got to have somebody that calls people back. Nothing drives me crazy if I call my wife's car and I'll call you back at the end of the day, and the end of the day comes and goes and I hear nothing. Now I'm a little disappointed, right? Then the next day, I'm really sorry, Mr. Gajowski. I'll get Paul on the line. Paul will call you back, and then it goes 5 hours and I don't hear from him again. Now I'm chasing you for my business. Like, is it that great? Because if I did that to my clients, I would expect that they would leave. My staff knows if you make a promise to somebody, you update them on what's going on, right? Because they deserve to know that.
Even if you're not going to come through at the time where you say, but if
nobody cares about that.
Less people care about the complaint itself rather than how the complaint is being handled. And
we're working on it. We're finding out an answer. We've got a delay. There's something going on, right? And all that time is a genuine, but just update people along the process.
I think we're all guilty of it from time to time too. Inadvertently it may happen, which is how busy everybody's been over the past year. We're all, we're guilty of it from time to time, but it's always about that, constant improvement that you were talking about too, is trying to get better at not doing that to clients. I myself know I probably have 15 emails between the last 40 minutes we've been on, of which 10 are probably going to have something I need to get done, today. And it's going to push me back and this back. But half the time, my first step, and I think this, if someone sends me something, I'll just send it back. Yeah, got it. Try to give you an update on when it's going to be available. They're working through it. And I think that level of communication, I think you do the same. I think it really helps a lot of people.
Something else I just want to add to this. And so we also do in-service training, right? So we do in-service training about once a month for our team, where we'll bring lunch in and we'll powwow in the conference room, and we talk about let's all share some success. What's some stuff that you heard that just really worked, right? Where we really got it.
Yeah.
Where's some challenges that we need to either improve the technology, the process, or whatever. Share with us some of the experiences we've had. Some vendors. Hey, this is a good vendor situation experience we've had, right? So it's a data dump from everybody, right? Because although we're all connected, I can anytime go online and see every call that was made, every email that was logged. I can see everything because we log everything here, which is sounds so basic, but is so unique in terms of how smaller firms work. That we want that constant feedback, and then we're going to improve the process that we got from the last month. Hey, here's something that you didn't know our systems can do that is, we feel, a best practice to share with the new clients or existing clients, right? Here's a process that's going to solve this challenge. So we've got to continue to sharpen our saw, because ultimately you can work harder and harder and harder. If you don't sharpen your saw and I'm not improving stuff for my team, that's a problem, and that's a shortfall on us. So for example, I pay for my staff to get outside training, right? So where they're going to advance their degrees, get a license, get credentials, we pay for it. Why? I'm not incentivizing them to get knowledge that hopefully lets them leave me and go someplace else. But if that's the way that their life path takes them, well, then so be it, and God bless. But I feel it's a duty that you hire someone who doesn't have 20 years of experience, right? The same 1 year, 20 times over. I want them to have 20 years of real experience where they've gotten 20 times better than when you brought them in, because now they've grown, their compensation has grown accordingly. They've elevated to position of a management level, right? You and I were joking when I first started working with you so many years back, right? Both we were much younger then, but also you weren't a partner, as you're a partner now. Again, congratulations. So well deserved, because you are who you are and you do what you do. you deserve everything you get. I do the same thing for my staff. My
Yeah.
staff deserves any benefits I can give to them. I think it's really important that any business owner who wants to keep really great people continue to do that. So not just internally, but I take the internal stuff that's worked here and I share that with my clients because there's no secrets.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we're getting close on time, Mark. So any kind of closing thoughts that you want to have or share, anything we didn't get to cover when we were throughout all of this, any nuggets that, we were thinking about talking about, going forward. So just, Oprah's closing thoughts, or I think
closing documents between two ferns. Ed, we've got to set up two ferns next time, but for your next. Closing thoughts. So I guess one on the wealth management side, just an observation that I've seen again in the past 12 months. If anyone who's watching this hasn't really evaluated where your assets are, where your future income streams are, decisions around, when you're going to take Social Security or when you should take your pension or how you should maybe rebalance in light of things, really important to do that. It's always important, but I think I've seen more people be more aware of that, maybe because people have been kind of shut in and you've got more time because there's just less places to go and stuff's coming to the forefront. Really important from a wealth management perspective. I encourage you to do that with shops like us or reach out to your advisors. If they're not equipped to do it, well, then again, you're always welcome to call us at Magii. From a retirement plan perspective, and again, we don't just manage plans here for plans where we're the advisor and TPA on, but also we're the third-party administrator for a lot of our trusted partners from other broker dealers and other walks of life who send us their business, and we take care of their clients' document and compliance testing needs. And what we've seen over that, and that's just not our experience, but in the industry, there's been a substantial increase in the number of retirement plan audits because there were, again, let's face it, they always say, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. The reality is, why is the IRS and the DOL looking at retirement plans? Because that's where the money's buried, right? And there's a lot of things that people don't realize need to be done in a certain way at a certain time, or your plan could be disqualified. And that's not fear mongering. That's just a reality. I mean, that's a Google search. Take a look at it. There's some really big names of big firms out there who have been pulled to the mat and paid fines because maybe they didn't do it right. And sometimes that's because they're not working with retirement experts who are in that space all the time. We jokingly say in my staff, right, you wouldn't go to a surgeon, to get, let's say, surgery done, right? Any kind of surgery. If that surgeon is, hey, you had much time on the job? Yeah, about since 9 o'clock. You wouldn't do that. You want to go to a surgeon that does this all the time, right? That is an expert in field. Why? Because then you're comforted to know that he or she has seen possibly every conceivable commutation that they're going to, right? They don't know what they're going to walk into when they do it. Same thing applies in every specific area. Retirement plans are such a specific niche. You really need to get to someone to open it up. It's not just about the fees. It's not just about which investment funds you have. Is it the right plan at the right time at the right price? And are you getting what you pay for? Do you have people who are bringing ideas that you haven't heard? So I would say those are my two takeaway items that I've seen more so in the last year. And probably I would say they continue in the future.
Great advice on that. Just great overall. Again, this is Mark Gajowski from the Magii group of companies located in Hoppa. You can find his website, Magii.com or similar, I believe is what it comes down to. So with that, I think we're going to close this one up. Thank you very much again for joining us, Mark. We look forward to, number one, a good tax season working with you. And we look forward to continue this going forward. And, we got about 15 minutes until there's a new president as well. So I want to give you time to be able to log out and, try to catch that accordingly. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Stay healthy and well. Thanks, Ed.